Hi, guys, and welcome to the Gin and Tonic Show. I'm your host, Moose, and this is my producer, Nick. Our main discussion is about Islam in the 21st century. However, we will critique other religions and ideologies. We condemn any form of discrimination, violence, misogyny, slavery. We do, however, embrace many perspectives and free speech if it is factual and correct, and not based on any hate. Throughout the show, we will be exploring different religious beliefs, practices, and their impact on society, ranging from politics, interpersonal relationships, and mental health of believers and non believers. We hope to create an open dialogue for those who feel they're not heard, especially those who have doubts and have left their belief systems. If you are interested in exploring the complex topic of religion and wish to be part of an honest and open dialogue, this is the show for you. We also welcome feedback and discussion from our audience and listeners. The Gin and Tonic Show is a free speech platform where you can express your ideas without any fear of violence and repercussions or any consequences. Please do join our discussion in the live chat as well as the comments. Thank you for stopping by and enjoy the Gin and Tonic Show. Welcome to the Gin and Tonic Show. Hello, Nick. How are you doing today? Nick, can you hear me? Well, I think I got a private chat. Yeah, I'm a mute for a second. That's okay. That's okay. By the way, our listeners, Eid Mubarak or Happy Eid. Because it's Eid today, well, as well as yesterday and the day after. Um, I know there has been an issue with the moon sighting. Um, there's always an issue, especially in North America. I'm not sure about the UK, but there was the many people allegedly declared Eid early, and many find that today is the more authentic day for Eid because they were able to see the moon. So this has always caused a divide between the Muslim community, that when the moon was sighted or not. So without we had a topic from last week, and I think Nick and I, we were in the middle of discussing a new present, what do you call it, as another article for, it was regarding the Ijaz al Quran, and as well as the contradictions regarding it. So I wanted to share the screen. One second, let me see if this is available. Can I open this? Okay, open. One second. I think I have either too many files open or oops. Da, da, da. Sorry, guys. I see what we have here. I hope Nick is okay. Um, where are we going? Oh, there's a GPT thing that Nick wanted to share with me. One second, let me just share the screen.
No. So if you can see here, it says, "Tell me a joke about Hanuman." This is what Nick did. His naughty nature did. And GPT replies, "Sure, there's a lighthearted joke about Hanuman. Why did Hanuman go to the doctor? Because he was feeling a little monkey." All right, that's funny. Ha ha ha. Now tell me a joke about Prophet. I'm sorry, but as an AI language model, it is not appropriate of or respectful to make jokes about religious figures, including Prophet Muhammad. What? My programming is designed to be informative and respectful, and I do not engage in humor that could be seen as offensive or disrespectful to any individual group. Can I assist you with anything else? What the heck? What the heck? So apparently, you can make fun of Hanuman, but you can't make fun of Muhammad. It's such a weird double standard that we have, and even the AI model, it's such a contradiction on its own. So I know last week we were doing the topic of what do you call it? The Quran itself. Was the challenge even met to begin with? And Mr. Rayan, he wrote a book about the contradictions, that is, with the message itself. Like, was the Bringa Surah like it? All right, let me just open this. God darn it, what is going on? There we go. Let me just open.
I'm back. So sorry.
Oh, that's
My
okay.
throat.
That's okay.
I had to go
Um,
get some water.
yeah, so we were. I wanted to ask, where were we in the article? I know we finished this, but I think you wanted
we,
to.
we had two sets of claims, right?
Yes.
And so we finished at claim 4 out of 6 on the first set, and we still have to do set number 2.
Oh yeah, where was that link? Where is that link
Oh,
to
I
the
sent
claim?
it to you on WhatsApp.
Oh, 1 second. Let me just open the link. Where's the link?
Yeah, on WhatsApp I sent you the file, and it should be the first set of links.
Oh, the PDF file, right?
Yeah, and then you can open it from that PDF
Okay.
file.
So it was the part two, the more relevant hadith. Okay, let me just
Yeah.
open allow. All right, I'm gonna share this. So send share screen. Yeah, do not show these tips again, because I actually know what I'm doing. Here we go.
Oh, really? I never knew that.
All right. So this is the refutation. Did the Prophet and his companions prohibit the writing of the hadith? So there, the topic was interesting. Were these hadiths? Was it permitted to write the hadiths down? And there's contradictory claims where one say it wasn't allowed, and then the second claim was it was allowed. It just gets very confusing. So, the question Khalifa K. Karim asks, did the Prophet and his companions prohibit hadiths being written down, or did the companions discourage people from following the hadiths of Muhammad? We shall find out as we read further. The quotes in red below are from Shia Rafida. I love how he calls it Rafida. It's a very offensive term. It means rejectors. Hadith rejectors use these references as if they're genuine. They don't know the difference between Sahih and Dhaif, which is weak. How are there more categories of hadith? Anyway, I will respond to their claims, God willing. Note, I will highlight the hadith they have used in red. So, I don't know why he spells Read. Man, you should double check your spelling. So, the claim number one.
Yeah, he's being poetic, quite like the Quran.
Yeah. Ahmad Muslim al Darimi al Tirmidhi al Nasai reported on the authority of Abu Sa'id al Khudri that the Messenger of Allah write nothing from me except the Quran, and whoever has written it must efface it. Again, al Darimi has reported from Abu Sa'id al Khudri that he said, I asked the Prophet, peace be upon him, benediction, and his progeny to grant me the permission to write down from him, but he refused to give me permission. Another narration is ascribed to Al-Tirmidhi, who has reported from Ata ibn Yasir on the authority of Abu Sa'id. and that he said, "We asked the Prophet, may God's blah blah blah, to grant us permission to write the Hadith, but he never gave us the permission." Now, he uses Professor Jonathan Brown's response why Prophet Muhammad didn't allow the teachings to be written down. One second. So there now Jonathan Brown says there are several hadiths in which Prophet warns his followers not to record his words out of fear that they might be confused with God's words as revealed in the Quran. As the Quran was still being set down and writing during the lifetime by numerous scribes, and in many private notebooks, collections of the Prophet's teaching might easily be conflated with the Holy Book. It was unrealistic. However, that lawmaker and political leader like the Prophet could allow no written record keeping. It would simply have been impossible for Muslims to preserve accurately the teachings that they heard from Muhammad without some recourse in writing. We thus find reports encouraging it. The companion Anas B. Malik is even quoted as saying, "We did not consider the knowledge of those who did not write it down to be real knowledge." We thus find hadiths in which Prophet allows new Muslims visiting from outside of Medina to record the lessons he gave in a sermon. So he's allowing only those who are visiting outside of Medina to write it down, that is, but not necessarily within Medina. So that's what the impression Jonathan Brown is giving us.
Wouldn't that be contradictory, though,
Yeah,
considering a lot of his companions were in Medina?
exactly. It does. I know he probably wanted. He has to be clear. Like, okay, do record my sermons, but then, like, why is he forbidding the writing of everything? So it's very odd. It's extremely strange. And when he's what do you call it? Because I know many of the followers would come from Mecca and other surrounding cities like Taif. So they would write things down, but there also is a chance that they would misinterpret things or they could edit it, you know?
Yeah,
That's a bit weird. Then Imam Nawawi says the following, that why the Prophet didn't allow written record of his teachings in his early mission. Again, I think keyword they say is early mission. The reports that condemn the writing of hadith come from earlier in the Prophet's career when he was concerned about his words being mistaken for Quran. Permission to write down his teachings would come later when the Quran had become more established in the minds of Muslims. And the Prophet's role as the leader of a functioning state required written records. But here's the interesting thing, though. The Quran wasn't exactly compiled then, even then. So, as history states, it wasn't exactly compiled. It was compiled during the reign of Umar, Abu Bakr, and Usman. So,
but more so, I think it was a narration during that time.
yeah, it's like I know people memorized it in oral tradition, but the book form wasn't even exactly complete. So, this is a bit strange, to be honest with you. Very strange. Now he says more proof that the messenger made it evident that his sunnah must be followed and practiced. So, narrated by Irbad ibn Sariya, Abdurrahman ibn Arasud, who's welcome. We came to Irbad ibn Sariya, who was amongst those whom the following verse was real. Nor is there blame on those who come to thee to be provided with mounts. And when thou saidst, I can find no mounts for you, we greeted him and we said, we have come to see you to give healing and obtain benefit from you. Al Irbad said, one day the apostle of Allah led us in prayer, then faced us and gave us a lengthy exhortation at which the eyes shed tears and the hearts were afraid. A man said, Apostle of Allah, it seems that as if it were a farewell exhortation. So what injunction do you give us? He then said, I enjoin you to fear Allah and to hear and obey, even if it be an Abyssinian slave. For those of you who live after me will see great disagreement. You must then follow my sunnah and that of the rightly guided caliphs. Hold to it and stick fast to it. Avoid novelties. For every novelty is an innovation, and every innovation is an error. So this is from Abu
Would they
Dawood.
mean would an error be also considered shirk or such?
I would say it's not it could be considered shirk. It could be considered guna or sin.
Because
It
usually
could,
such innovations came from following their previous
or
polytheistic.
an innovation is more like a bidah, right? An innovation is a bidah. Um, it's not a positive innovation either. So there's also that issue. And then, when he said you must follow my sunnah means my actions or my sayings, that is, and that of the rightly guided caliphs, which is, he never, which is funny because he never exactly declared an heir to begin with. He never declared any heir. There was a huge disagreement on who's going to be the heir, whether it was Abu Bakr or Ali bin Abu Talib. So there was that issue. And then there's another hadith from the same source, from the same, I think, uh, another hadith. This is from Sahih al-Bukhari, 381. It says, it is narrated by Hudhaifa. It says, Allah's apostle said to us, honesty descended from the heavens and settled in the roots of the hearts of men faithful. And then the Quran was revealed, and the people read the Quran and learned from it, and also learned it from the Sunnah. Both Quran and Sunnah strengthened their faithful believers' honesty. So, on one end, there's, oh, you shouldn't record anything, but now you can record. And like it's both the Quran and the Sunnah. So it does make sure that the Quran and Sunnah are together. So that is part of the Islamic teaching. So this is what the message is. Again, he mentions part one. We already went over part one. So there's also there's a claim number 2. It is also reported from Marasil ibn Mulaika that Abu Bakr gathered people after the Prophet's demise, addressing them. You relate from the Messenger of Allah, upon whom the God's peace and benediction, traditions regarding which you disagree, and consequently severer controversy shall occur among the people. So relate nothing from the Messenger of Allah, and when asked by anyone, you can say, the Book of Allah is the arbitrator between us. Deem lawful what if it considers lawful, and deem unlawful what is considered unlawful. Now, this is from Al-Dahabi's the Tadhkirah al-Hufaz. Now, the response to this is that I examined this narration and I came across the whole text is a quote from Al-Dahabi's book. He says that they do not know who narrated the story. So again, apparently, this is a false narration. So this is a weak source. Meaning that they do not know who the person is or who narrated the story. In other words, the hadith above is not even authentic. Here's the full Arabic text for the above below. So yeah, there is. Yeah, you were saying something?
No, I was just gonna say that I don't understand how the specific claim itself would even go for the statement like that you can't bring a book like the Quran. So I really don't see its relevance as well.
I know, right? It's like there's a lot of but then there's also like the issue of should Sunnah be followed or should Quran be followed? I know it diverts into another topic. Um,
Yeah, no, I was going to say that because this is shifting the goalpost as well
yeah, it's
as to what the challenge is, but it doesn't actually address the challenge itself.
exactly. It's kind of like
Hey,
going,
Culture Ginny's here.
hi, Culture Ginny.
Hello.
All right, this Jin over here, come into your dreams, and he'll tell you life is complicated, and
Life is always complicated.
history is complicated, and society is complicated.
Yes.
It's as complicated as the pyramid scheme Muhammad Hijab runs for Ramadan.
Oh dear, oh dear. That needs to be examined. That pyramid scheme needs to be examined. I wouldn't call it a pyramid scheme yet. Let's call it a multi-level marketing.
Uh, and Moose, considering yours and I's background, coming from my business background and your legal background, I wouldn't mind like trying to run through some of the financials of the charity and scam for
Yeah, yeah,
future
we might
episode.
actually do that in a future episode. Now,
All right, culture Ginny, yeah, sorry to talk.
yeah. Now, so yeah, we were here at
You
the
were trying to say something, culture Ginny?
No, I
okay.
just joined.
Yeah, so we were looking at the
Yeah.
link of the claims of what do you call it? Um, where the hadith and the Quran, like Muhammad forbade the writing of the hadith. But apparently there's contradictions where he did allow. Now, apparently this narration that says that Abu Bakr forbade the writing of the hadith, so it's not even authentic. We don't even know who narrated this. He does admit Shia scholars love lying. They're the same people who curse, slander the companions of the Prophet and even wiped Muhammad. Yeah, that's Aisha. They love slandering Aisha and Hafsa. Let's now claim to see if the Abu Bakr only followed the Quran. But I'm kind of thinking it doesn't. Nick, I'm thinking this is more about
Yeah.
what do you call it? Uh,
I mean, I'm pretty sure that there are other material than just that, because hadiths, as you know, the tradition appeared,
yeah,
some centuries after,
the earliest written
the
records.
events.
Yeah, yeah, written records.
I
That
mean,
is.
there did exist some sort of hadith tradition before, even during the Umayyad period, because we have remnants
Yeah,
of
yeah,
it. We have the Maliks, Mutawat, and such.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
I mean, there was discussion about their legitimacy and about the entire concept as well. And
Yeah,
there is also this entire thing where you actually one of those people that actually comment on this entire thing, and that has a gives surprisingly good insight into this, is actually Ahmed ibn Hanbal, the Hanbali school founder.
yes,
Because you
yes.
would think that he was like hyper pro hadith. He was pro hadith, but he actually
Yeah,
kind of takes a kind of neutral stance. He says, personally, I use them because they are good. But these people
right,
that only want the Quran, I actually accept them. My major issue is with these guys that want to introduce reason into this entire debate rather
right,
than take
right.
things literally.
Yeah, because I think there was
And
the issue.
he has this very
Yeah,
interesting discussion about this entire thing, which reveals that, because we usually connect this entire, anti-hadith movement with the Mu'tazila, but it
mm,
isn't that clear cut, because many of the Mu'tazila actually did use a hadith. Some of them did not, and it wasn't really that which was the main contention with them either.
yeah, and I've also seen with Shia Muslims they have their own sources. There's the Kitab al Kafi and Bihar al Anwar. However, they still use Sahih al Bukhari and Sahih Muslim as reference points to strengthen their particular arguments, allegedly. So it gets very confusing which group uses which hadiths to their liking.
And how hadiths are discussed as well, because there's,
Yeah.
I mean, wasn't it was Shafi? I mean, he had this. I think it was Shafi that studied under what was his name, the famous Shia
Oh, Jafar al Sadiq.
Jafar. Yeah, yes,
Jafar
Jafar.
al Sadiq. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. He studied
Yeah,
under him. Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, the border between Shia and Sunni at the time where hadiths are being developed aren't that strong either.
Yeah.
And there is a lot of overlap. I mean, there was still a lot of overlap into the 10th century.
I think post 10th century, we start seeing Shia hadiths kind of like separate and like they're quoting their imams and they are
Yes.
quoting Muhammad too. But like a lot of the hadiths are from the imams and they do carry on different traditions. Um, I know Bihar al Anwar seems very more politically motivated, aimed to convert people to Shia Islam. That's the impression I got from Biharul Anwar, because it was written by Majlisi, Alam Majlisi, during the Safavid era. So it does have that Safavid feeling to it. Um, but yeah, this was what we were talking about. So I know it was the Bring the Surah Like It challenge. And then this was Rayan. He was talking about he was engaging with a Quranist who was saying that he rejects hadith on the based on the fact that the hadiths have been banned in the past, and Muhammad himself was concerned that the Sahaba were confusing Sunnah for Quran. So, in addition to that, this person mentioned that writing down hadiths was also seen as a specific offense at certain points in history. I thought it was rather curious and got me thinking, why were people mistaking Sunnah for the Quran? And then we were going through these sources, and then, apparently there was, what do you call it? There's these different websites that actually go back and forth, um, you know, that the written record of hadith was not allowed at first. I'm just going to summarize because I don't want to waste too much time on this. It was allowed earlier, but then the permission would come later when the Quran had become more established. But what gets me is that, you know, the Quran exactly wasn't established in book form per se. It was still
It is a recitation. I mean,
yeah,
Iqra,
yeah,
Quran,
it was,
is, it's the master form of qara'a, to read or
yeah,
recite up something.
yeah, it was more of a memory, like a part of the oral
It's a
history, right?
recital. It's a
Yes, it was more of
recital,
a
yes.
recital rather than
Just like the Iliad
book.
and the Odyssey used to be
Oh, they
oral.
used to be recitals too.
Yes,
Oh, wow. Oh, okay, so they started off with
and
the
the
oral history too.
yeah.
Yeah, so this is interesting. So yeah, this one, and then there's the Ijaz al-Quran, an explanation of it. So we were talking about how the Quran is not supposed to be imitated. Um,
I
and
would say that the Quran, the challenge to make something like it is actually, the issue with it is that it makes the statement about it's an unprovable challenge, because at first the thing, surah like it is kind of like defined in terms that are entirely subjective,
yes,
like beauty or, stylistically. Two,
yes,
even if you make, so it's subjective value judgment and not an objective criteria to meet this challenge. Two, even if you make something that looks like it, then because people can memorize the entire Quran, they can say, "Oh, it's not like it,"
yes.
because they already know everything in the Quran. Because you can memorize the entire Quranic text. You can actually memorize texts that are longer than the Quran.
Oh,
So,
absolutely.
there will exist those people, and they can always say, "No, it's not Quran." So it's, becomes impossible, because you can work through exclusion, that
Yes,
there
and
is not enough like that.
it's a very subjective challenge, and there's no, I think in my last video I said there's no criteria set, right? There's no criteria. It just starts with bring a surah like it, and the criteria keeps shifting. Like you said, it keeps shifting all over the place. But what Rayan said, he said Omar, basically, he makes a claim that Omar was able to imitate the Quran because he was able to influence the hijab verse, for example. So when he said in the hadith, Umar said, "I agreed with my Lord on three matters." I said, "Why don't we take Maqam al Ibrahim as a place of prayer?" Then the verse was revealed that you people and Maqam place of Ibrahim, or the stone stood, was the building where the Kaaba was a place of prayer. Al Baqarah 2125. And I said to the messenger, both righteous and evildoers enter your wives, so why don't you tell them to observe the hijab? Then the verse of the hijab was revealed. And then the wives of the messenger of Allah got together as a result of jealousy between them. And I said to them, it may be that if he divorced you all, that his Lord will give him instead you better wives than you, This is Tahrim 66.5. Yeah, this is verse 66.5. And it was revealed like that. So this is from a Sahih Hadith. So this is Omar influencing the Quran too. So in essence, like Ryan makes the argument, has Omar also met the challenge technically that he brought a verse like it?
Moose,
Or did he?
someone wants to join.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Can
yeah,
you
yeah,
send
yeah.
a link on the YouTube
Yes,
chat?
yes, 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 yes. Let me just hang on. Let me just send the invite link. Copy. All right. Let me just put this here. Here we go. There we go. So yeah, this is an interesting. What do you think, Jenny, about Omar's influence on the Quran? That is.
I mean, the problem is that we don't. There is one narrative that says that Omar was the first to order the compilation of the Quran, but there's also one that says that it was even later than Uthman.
Yeah, and also the fact that he influenced three verses, like the hijab verse, um, the divorce one, like oh he'll divorce you, and then there's another one where declaring the Kaaba as the Maqam al Ibrahim one. So he's influencing the Quran himself too, according to the Hadith. That is that Umar is influencing Muhammad's revelations as
I
well.
mean, this is also the kind of problematic nature of this entire thing because they say that the Quran is unchanged in traditional narrative, but you also have the fact that you have hadiths that state about various verses not be existing in the Quran, but isn't
Mhm.
in the standardized qira'ats or
Yeah.
recitations that exist of the Quran today. For example, there was an ayat about rajam, stoning,
Yes, the stoning verse, which
that was
apparently,
apparently eaten by a goat or something, if I'm
yes,
not
yes, by Aisha.
entirely.
Aisha had she had hidden it under a pillow. It was eaten by a sheep or a goat or something like that. And yeah, and even Uthman, Dudabai, to your credit, not Omar, Uthman had ordered the burning of a lot of alternative Qurans. That is, there were alternative Qurans that did exist with different styles, different dialects, different pronunciations that
You know,
he
the
ended up
interesting
in.
thing about the Quran is that it actually has its recitation isn't. They say that it's the Mecca dialect, but actually, if you look at the medieval Arabic linguists that try to
Hmm.
construct the idealized, standardized Arabic language, the
Yeah,
Fusha back in the day, they actually say right out, right out that the people in the Hijaz pronounce Qaf as Goth, as a G
right,
sound, like they do today.
right, right. So the Hijazi dialect is different from what the Quran's dialect is that's what
Yes,
they're saying,
it
right?
could do be that because they say that they try to use try to standardize the language of Kinda, which was an older Arabic
Yeah, yeah,
dynasty.
yeah, yeah, yeah. The
That
earlier United Kingdom of Kinda. I think
yeah,
this was the time of
yes,
Imrul
yes,
Qais was there.
yes, yes,
Um,
yes. It's back that because they did have a language that tried to unify the various Arabic tribes.
yeah, and by the way, do the bites. There was the woman's breast. This was called the breastfeeding hadith,
I
not the
mean,
breast,
it's
but
entirely
breastfeeding.
possible if you consider that Muhammad was a trader, that he might have actually spoken, the trade language or this kind of like
Very likely, very,
half
very
half
likely.
of official standardized Arabic because he needed to if he was to travel all around the peninsula.
Absolutely. He has went to, according to the narrative, he's went as far as Syria. So he has
Yeah, I mean
traveled
there
a
there,
lot.
there are a lot of things in the hadiths which I don't think that the various asanid or the various isnads, because that was is the plural of isnad, are actually reliable. I think that many of the hadiths that might actually be authentic or have been given weak chains of narrations, and some that are considered authentic have been
Yeah,
even but are in truth just fabrications have been even strong chains of narration. I think that I think the stories are often either true or false, but mostly I think that many of the chains of narrations are creations from scratch.
Yeah. Oh, and just so you know, Moose, Socrates' son is on our show.
Hello.
So, I am honored with the son of the great Socrates, eh?
Hey.
But I wanted to say a point.
Yeah.
Might I finish it?
Yeah, just
Yeah,
finish your
sure.
point and then we'll do the intro.
Yeah, my point is that if you look, if there is this very strong echo right now, but if
Yeah,
you
what's
look
up
at
with
the
the echo?
point,
Yeah.
if you look at the hadiths and just disregard all of this, strong or weak hadiths and just view them all as very stories, then and look at what is possible at the time, and then you will realize that a lot of the stories in the hadith, some weak, some strong, actually point towards Muhammad being very cultured and actually having a very learned background.
Interesting.
He
So
does make references to Plato in one.
interesting. I would love to actually evaluate those hadiths too. And
If I remember correctly, when I was reading
yeah.
through a
For
lot of.
next video, we'll see some like inspiration to hadiths, and if there's a reference to Plato, I would love to see that actually. Um,
I thought it was
so
Plato or it was Socrates.
probably. And now we have bringing. Speaking of Socrates, we have the
Yeah.
son of Socrates.
Yes. Hello, everybody.
Hi.
H-
How are you doing, Socrates?
am I being audible right now?
Yes.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Because I don't do that often. I don't. I want to ask whether my voice is correctly, or if I'm
It's
doing
fine.
something wrong. Yes.
Yeah,
So
it's
I was
fine.
willing. Yes, I was willing to join this show. Long time now, but I didn't have the nerve because, to tell you the truth, my English are not that that good. And sometimes I can speak fluently. Sometimes, I anyway. So yes, I'm very happy to be here finally.
No, thank you so much. Yeah, so we were discussing today's topic was the Bring the Surah Like It challenge. That's the overarching topic.
Yeah.
And what are your overall thoughts on the Bring a Surah Like It challenge?
Yes. First of all, this challenge is not referring to elegance in poetry. Okay, or in essence. Let's start with essence. We can all read the essence of the Quran, and it's terrible. Okay, so it's certainly not the essence in which we can all read. Then it's not even the poetry, because the Quran hasn't got any, poetry includes also essence. It needs to rhyme or something, or some kind of elegance in the in the structure. The only elegant structure the Quran in fact has is some kind of symmetry, underlying symmetry, that extends in whole surahs. This kind of symmetry Arab poets used to make in order to be able
Sajja.
to memorize.
Right.
So it's not, what I'm trying to say is not even good poetry. The only good
Okay.
is not essence. No, the only thing this challenge can refer to
Whoops.
is this kind of ring composition. I don't know whether you've heard this ring composition. Is some kind of underlying symmetry in the structure of the Quran. But this was done because for memorization. So the Quran was made for oral performances. So Arabs of the time, in order to be able to memorize oral performances, they use this kind of ring composition. But the Quran supposedly has an elegant ring composition. So this is what the Quran is referring to. But there are arguments against that, yes. And of course there are, yeah. So it was made for oral. It was something that it was done very often with in Arabia on those days. So it's not something special. All Arab poets used to make this kind of textual structure. So that is the one. And I don't know whether someone wants to jump in,
Hmm. Yeah, I think
or,
there
or I should.
there was the. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, I can personally
Okay.
hear you. So.
Okay. So yeah, so there was the a I it's an interesting point you make is about the pre-Islamic Arab poets that had the
Hey,
similar
do you
structure
have headphones on?
to. I do actually.
Because there's an echo from your voice.
Is there? Hang on.
Yeah,
Let me just try. Now
it's perfect.
it's better.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So apparently, the you I like the point that you mentioned is about the pre-Islamic poems or the poems of that era had a similar structure. So I think what you're saying is that the talent
It's
was
actually prose,
the prose. Okay, okay.
or rather
I'm not an
semi-poetic
expert on
prose.
poetry. I'm not an expert on poetry. So yeah, please
It's
correct.
called saj'a.
Right. I think Ginny, is this the echo from you or from Socrates
It's
or
from
from?
you.
Maybe from me, guys. I don't know.
Okay, yeah, I'll mute you 1 second. How about now? Okay, yeah, it is from Socrates' son. Okay,
It is from Socrates. Oh, sorry. I thought it was from you, Mose. Anyway,
yeah,
it's
yes.
called saj'a, and it's a kind of rhymed prose. It's kind of like semi-poetic prose. It has some rules which are kind of poetic-like, but it's not strict poetry. But it's kind of like a half poetry form. It's used
Yeah.
a lot in children's Arabic books to learn Arabic. Of course, you
Really?
memorize Arabic, grammar rules by reciting them in this rhymed prose form.
Interesting.
This was actually something we had to go through in the master's course
Oh yeah,
in
because
order to get some of the more advanced Arabic rules.
interesting. Yeah, this gets very interesting. And so, like, I wanted to ask, like, Socrates' son, do you have examples of uh, poetry or Ginny, both of you, either or? Are there examples of poetry or prose or any form of surah that exists that is non-Quranic, that exists from the Arabian times?
What do you mean?
Like,
I don't.
is there something like a, what do you call it, poems like the Quran that exist from?
I mean, there are
Big way. I don't know if this.
some
I don't know if this would
some
count
of the
as your answer.
some of the parts of the Antara, collection isn't real poetry. I mean, some of the parts are completely strict poetry, especially the most epic parts of it. But some of the prefaces there, middle parts and ends of it are in Sajja, which is, this sort of rhymed prose form.
Right.
So
Socrates'
yes,
son.
there does exist examples of it.
Yeah.
That was
So-
just the first thing on the top of my head. There is probably more.
Yeah. Okay, Socrates' son, you had something to say?
Yes, the scholar is a Western scholar that he's known because he made the book of the ring composition study, and he popularized this argument that that now they use popular Muslim apologists use. So the person who popularized this thing of ring composition and all this kind of thing, the structure, is in fact I've seen a video. Him himself is saying that the inimitability miracle of the Quran, the supposed miracle, is not about it has some special thing. It has what all other Arab poetry has,
Mhm.
but it's doing it in a more elegant way. So it's not something unique. Pre-Quranic poets were using this kind of ring composition in their poets. So
Interesting.
yes, so in other words, what he is saying, because he was answering a question, he's Muslim himself. So he's being honest. What I'm trying to say is not a polemicist. So he said he was asked, "Oh, so the Quran is unique in this ring composition?" And he said, "No, it's not unique. Arab poets were using this ring composition before the Quran. Just the intricates of the Quran are more elegant in a way, are more um, complex. Uh, the other thing I would like to say is that a Christian apologist made an oral formulative study.
Yeah.
What he did, in fact, is he used some kind of computer program, and he gave some kind of standard requirements how you recognize whether a text was initially made or originally made for oral transmission, or it was originally made for writing. And he said that if the percentage is 30%, is high oral density, and the Quran had I don't know 45%. So what he then said, his name, if I remember correctly, is Ballister, something like that, and his book is Oral Formulative Study, Ballister, something like that. And he said that the Quran reveals very high oral density, and that proves that the Quran was not made for a book as a book. Initially, it was made for oral performances. That's why it's so repetitive, and it reiterates all the time the same stories. You also obviously noticed.
Yes.
So, okay, so having all this kind of evidence, what we conclude is that this kind of supposed inimitability miracle, this kind of eloquence in the structure, was made exactly because to memorize. So it's not just not a miracle; it was the exact opposite. It was made as a practical way to memorize.
Interesting.
So yeah.
Interesting.
I
And
mean, this was what I meant with Sajja Sajja prose. It's made to be easily memorized.
right. Okay. So
And the
imitative.
Quran is written in that type of form.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So sorry.
About the ring, there are actually 5 rings of poetry that all various poetry forms can be classified under.
Yeah.
And for example, ring 1 has the form has the poetry forms of tawil, basit, madid. Ring 2 has the form of the poetry forms of kamil, wafir. Ring 3 has the ring 3 has the forms of hazaj, rajaz, ramal,
Right.
and ring 4, and so on and so on. And because I'm just reading this from John Retze, it's a professor that is currently pensioned, but he made this compendium, an introduction in Sweden. It's written an introduction and commentary to classical Arabic poetry, and it's like this hyper thick compendium with loads of various famous early classical Arabic poetry.
Yeah.
And it has an entire chapter about the various poetical forms and what is fine language and why it is.
Fascinating. Yeah. Absolutely. And also, there's another thing that Ryan brings up is the time that Shaitan fooled everyone. and there is the satanic verses incident where you have Muhammad quoting instead in Surah, I think it was Al-Najm, I believe, he says that have you seen Allat, Al-Uzza, and Manat? When he says, verily, these are the high-flying intercessions, cranes or swans, and their intercession is to be hoped for. So would you guys consider this as an example of the shaitan being able to imitate the Quran? I'll go first with you.
Yes, certainly. So that is one more argument. Of course, Muslims now they doubt these verses are authentic. These hadith are authentic.
Yeah.
But certainly, if because there is a detail, the challenge says jinn or men. So, so that was the stupid thing in the Quran. It doesn't just say men. Bring a surah like it. It also challenges jinn, and Satan is a jinn. So,
So wait,
so
it's
that
challenging both humans and jinns?
yes.
Interesting. So there's a jinn. Shaitan is supposed to be a jinn, or the master jinn. And he came up with a verse which became known as satanic verses.
So but this later got rejected when the entire thing was, considered just a bad episode of being led astray.
Yeah, Socrates, you were saying?
Yes. So that is one more response. The other response. So imagine how the first time I've read this, it made so a bad impression to me. I said, how ridiculous! In the challenge, it also includes jinn, imaginary creatures. So even the challenge is stupid. And of course, the challenge itself doesn't make sense, because when you say like it can mean all kinds of things. So even if it has letters, okay, it's like it. Okay,
Right.
you need to be more. So a challenge is not a valid challenge if you don't specify, if you don't make your requirements precise. So if I can say a surah like it might be whatever, might be a surah with letters, or a surah with sentences, a surah with. So when you don't specify the challenge, then it's it's a fake challenge. It's a fake challenge, in fact.
Yeah, and the fact that it's I know a lot of what do you call it, modern scholars reject this incident, or I know Ginny said that this was a bad episode, but a lot of modern scholars I've seen have either outrightly rejected this or have said that it's not authentic, or the narration is weak, blah blah blah, all kinds of excuses I've read, which is funny because I found more traditional scholars, like earlier scholars, never denied this point. So it makes it very interesting that a lot of the more, I think, embarrassing stuff is just outrightly rejected.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a surah that I actually wanted to share with you guys. It's called Surah Corona, and this is what do you call it? A Tunisian woman was arrested for coming up with this, and I feel that this was an example of a challenge being met, and I think Explosives of North America shared this. Let me just increase the volume, and we'll just play this. Let me see. Can you guys see this? Yeah, you guys can see this.
أعوذ بجيل من البلاء الرجيم باسم جيل الرحمن الرحيم كوفيد والفيروس المبيد بل عجبوا أن جاءهم من الصين البعيد فقال الكافرون إنه مرض عنيد كلا بل هو الموت الأكيد لا فرق اليوم بين الملوك والعبيد فاعتصموا بالعلم واتركوا
I love the images
التقاليد
too.
ولا تخرجوا لتشتروا السميد وامكثوا في بيوتكم إنه بلاء شديد واغسلوا أيديكم بالصابون الجديد صدق الجيل العظيم.
So, what do you guys think?
Yeah, it's all seems the same to me, at least.
Sounds similar.
Yes, it sounds the same. Yes,
Yeah.
but then they will say, "Ah, you don't know Arabic, and that the meaning doesn't make sense."
Yeah.
But the
Drastic is on the backstage.
Wait, hang on. Drastic is backstage? Where's Drastic? Hang on. Sorry, guys. Oh, there he is. Stream.
oh, drastic, nice.
Okay, yeah. Hello, Drastic. How are you?
Yeah, hey guys, I'm good. How you doing?
Sorry, Socrates. I have to mute you because there's an echo. But yes, Drastic. What do you think so far of the Surah challenge, Surah Al Corona?
I think it's as stupid as it's ever been, to be honest. Am I causing anybody an echo? Do I need to mute myself when I'm not talking?
No, I think you're not causing. I think from Socrates' mic that could be an echo.
Okay, cool.
What do you call it? Yeah. So far, there's no issue here. But yeah, overall, like, what is your overall like view on the Quran challenge? That is like.
Well, I mean, I agree with Socrates, and it's been said before, but it's particularly this idea of you can interpret something like it in so many different ways. Is it like it in structure? Is it like it in the length, in the meaning? It's so vague a term that it's a meaningless challenge as far as I can tell. You need to define it properly before you can meet the challenge, and they haven't done so.
Yeah, and what's funny, I wanted to share this article with you guys. That this was in 2020. Again, this was the Tunisia arrests a young woman who made up fake Quran verses about coronavirus when she sparked outrage, on social media. And the Tunisian authorities have arrested a young woman. Amna al-Sharqi will be investigated. Again, this is from 2020. I don't know what the situation is right now. She was tried for desecration of the Quran, but I know this is going to be, like this is going to drag a lot because a minority of Tunisians voiced that her act falls up under freedom of expression. And she confirmed, al-Sharqi confirmed that she had received death threats from writing the text. She said on Facebook that she published was not distortion, but stressing that did not include the word God or religion. The Quran is considered sacred. Many Tunisian officials announced a partial easing of lockdown measures, enacting the curb. Yeah, again, I love how the article shifts to this, but it's it definitely, even if someone even meets the challenge, there's the danger of facing the consequences of even daring to meet the challenge. But I would like to here. Socrates, I have to
Yeah.
apologize. But yeah, I'd like to hear it.
Guys, is there a way I can mute myself when I'm not talking?
Yes. Just click on your. There's a mute button, a mute mic option. So you can try
Okay.
that mute mic option.
Yeah, I will figure this out because I don't see it right away.
Wait, just
So I only see stop
your,
mic or camera. Yeah.
yeah, hover your mouse over your image.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, Socrates, it should be right next to it. You should have the start camera icon, and then the mute one should be next to it.
Guys, sorry, I'm dreadful in this. Yeah. I will find it. I will.
Yeah, just
But-
shoot us a message on the private chat. I'm actually watching the private
Yeah.
chat. So
Yeah, of
on
course.
the right, there's private chat. So just type in something just in case.
So yes, about this. So David Wood also made a very good argument. He said that even if you make something, even if you cannot imitate something very elegant, he said, like the Beethoven symphonies, that doesn't mean you are God either way. Isn't that right?
Oh, absolutely.
So many people cannot imitate many things. So that's another argument. We already gave, I don't know, 4 arguments. 4 reasons why this inimitability challenge is plain stupid. The other thing is that the Quran, I think it says, and bring your witnesses. So that makes it even more subjective. So even the Quran says, make the surah and bring your witnesses.
Right.
So in other words, Allah says, it is subjective. In other words, it's insane. So Allah admits that it's subjective.
Yeah.
It's so stupid.
And also, like when the Tunisian woman came up with Surah Corona, as stupid as it is, it's meeting the challenge. She uses the word jilu, and it sounds very similar. Like, man, like they're even if someone attempts to do something like that, they could be facing blasphemy charges. Allegedly, they could face blasphemy charges. But yeah, Drastic Ginny, do you have any? What do you call it?
Well,
contribute?
Moose, is this woman in Tunisia? Was she actually trying to meet the Quran challenge, or was she just like trolling about coronavirus?
I'm not sure exactly, because it looks like she is trying to meet the challenge when she comes up literally with Surah Corona. But now I think she's shifted her claim to what do you call it? Making fun of Corona. I feel like it is because of the authorities' crackdown. That is.
I heard later being the case, but I haven't looked into this.
Yeah, I haven't. There hasn't been much reporting on this case, but I definitely will try to find some like Middle Eastern news site to like confirm this is what the latest is on this issue.
But it kind of touches on the other part of the Quran that says that you won't be able to meet the challenge anyway. So there's really no point in trying. So it makes it doubly stupid, because it's like, why bother offering the challenge and then immediately saying there's no way you'll ever pass it? I mean, that sounds like a rigged game right from the start. So and I almost think it was designed as a way to try to expose people with doubts about the religion, as a way to then say, oh, look, there's an enemy of Islam, now we can go kill them.
Yeah, it presents a situation of a double bind, and the double bind very much, it's like an example of like the Salem witch trials or the witch trials of Europe, where you drown a witch, you throw a witch into the water. If she drowns, she's not a witch. But if she survives, she's a witch. Kill her. So she's going to die either way. So,
well, also, Moose, it reminded me of under Chairman Mao, there was a brief period where he liberalized the society and actually asked for any dissidents that had criticisms of him or the regime to come forward and make them. And then I'm pretty sure a load of people got rounded up that actually put some criticism to them, and they were imprisoned or killed. So
Wow.
it just seems, it seems to me just a way to root out your enemies. And it's
Socrates' son might have left the chat trying to mute himself.
Oh wait, no, Socrates. I accidentally left the chat trying to mute myself. Socrates' son, can you? Let me just add you to the stream. There we go.
Yeah, I would like to apologize. I was it was rude, but I tried to mute myself and I left the chat. Sorry about that.
No worries, no worries. But yeah, Socrates' son, did you have something to say?
Yes, so I was not paying much attention because I was trying to get back into the stream. But I don't know if I am to add something that now I found out is the name of the. If people like to check this out, is the name of the person who did this structure and Quranic interpretation, a study of symmetry and coherence in Islam, in Islam's holy text. His name is Raymond Farin. So this is in fact a convert, a Western scholar, that because he made this book and he was favorable to the Quran, he then was getting all these high salaries and high places in universities in Qatar and so on.
Of course.
Yeah, but the thing is that for all these years, nobody was able to put down this supposed symmetry because it's so intricate, so complex. And I said I was making a video and I was trying to refute that, and I tried to follow what he was saying, and it was like guys like studying quantum mechanics. I mean, he found a verse that in the end of the chapter said something that resembles something he said. Very complex to even make sense, and I'm confident even that doesn't work. Even this ring composition doesn't work because I spent hours trying to understand what is all, where he finds all this symmetry, and it's really how can I say that? You cannot refute it. In other words, it's so complex. It's like trying to refute quantum mechanics, something like that.
Oh yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, it will actually take some time too. Like, you have to literally write an entire book to refute this the arguments, I'm guessing.
Yeah, but it's not just that. I could not see what he was seeing. So maybe he wanted to see something, because the thing with the Quran is that it's not coherent. So the Quran is the only book I don't know, maybe that it needs other books to make sense, and it also needs some background knowledge of the Bible. So the Quran hasn't got continuing storytelling. It's all the time it repeats itself, is repetitive. So it's not like, and the other thing that is really important, now I remember that, is this ring composition doesn't make sense because the order of the Quran, it was not made originally. The Quran, the Quran, it was made, is not on chronological order. The order was made long after.
Yeah.
So how you find symmetry in the text when the transcending chapters, when the order of the Quran was not made initially by God. The order, people made the order with chronological order. That is what I wanted to say.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And I do agree on the point. There is no if you kind of look at the subject, the rhyme, okay, the rhyme is okay. I can see the rhyme. It's just a rhyming sequence. But when it comes to stories and when it comes to the message, it's all over the place. Like it's saying something, then it's saying something else, and it's like, wait, stay on the subject matter. You know, you're going all over the place. So I have
Yeah.
seen that tendency with the Quranic text. And by the way, guys, I might head out in a bit, but before I do, I wanted to share this particular quote. It's attributed to Muhammad bin Zakaria al-Razi, posted by ex-Muslims in North America. What he says on the Quran challenge is, "By God, what you say astonishes us." You're talking about a work which recounts ancient myths, which at the same time is full of contradictions as does not contain any useful information or explanation. Then you say, produce something like it.
Yeah.
So, in essence, he's saying that how useless this thing is, and now you're wanting us to produce something. Oh, sorry. Can I? What do you call it? Yeah, sorry. I think there was an echo. Yeah, so it's just saying, yeah, it's Socrates. I had to echo you. Um, by the way, Nick, please de-echo or unecho Socrates' son whenever possible. Um, and
Yeah. So unmute him, right? Or
yes, yes. So I will. But yeah, this is what I'll finish with. But I'll be heading out. But
for
thank you
sure.
guys for today's episode. Yeah, just eat today, and like I. Oh, perfect. He found the mute. He found the mute. All right. So okay. So yeah, it's definitely it was a fun episode. But yeah, do carry on. At least
Yeah.
for another half an hour, 40 minutes, an hour, however you like. And yeah, you can discuss. Nick probably has some stuff to discuss as well.
Hey,
But
Moose, come on. What do you mean just half an hour? This show used to run like 4 or 5 hours at a time. We need to get old school.
I know. Like, listen, drastic. We also have lives too, Like we have, especially today is Eid. Oh, by the way, happy Eid, guys. Eid Mubarak, guys. So, yeah, I'll bid you all farewell and happy Eid. Take care.
Yeah, good night, Moose.
All
Take
right.
care.
I'm here. I guess I get to do the rest of it. I really enjoyed the discussion that we had till now, so I was like, let me shut up and listen.
Yeah, well, I mean that's a situation with the Tunisian woman. It really just it's funny because people were saying like Tunisia tends to be a more progressive place in the Muslim world, and I suppose by some standards it is, but it just shows how easy it is to suddenly revert to this really harsh kind of interpretation of Islam, and she's suffering for it now, and yeah, it just and over a challenge which is supposed to be set in the Quran. I mean, surely how could that get her into trouble by doing what the Quran says, trying to meet the challenge? Doesn't make any sense to me.
Oh, that's the trick of the challenge, right? Just to get people who want to do mockery of it and kill them.
Well, as I say, the conspiratorial part of my mind does think that might have been the reason that they put it in, because if you're basically going to set a challenge which you say beforehand can't be met, what's the purpose of it except to uncover doubters and potential enemies? I can't think of any other rational reason for it.
Yeah, it's like a crook's trick. It's like it's you expect a crook will make this kind of challenge, and I don't want to be provocative. This is the first thing I it got in my mind is that this kind of challenge is the kind of challenge you expect like a person that hasn't got real essence will make. Okay, because it's not specific. It's all the problems that we described, because it's in Arabic, and bring your witnesses. Something which is okay. So witnesses might be anybody. So some will be maybe convinced. So it's not specific. It's not solid. It's some kind of quote to make an impression. Okay, so this is the kind of language crooks use. Like I want to impress you, not relating to any true essence. Yeah, and of course it refers. They say it refers only to people who speak Arabic. So for the non-believers is the non-contradiction challenge, which is even more problematic and even more, yeah, problematic. Let's say.
Well, yeah, I mean that is a bit strange as well. Why would you set a challenge that only a tiny proportion of people in the world would even be able to meet because the rest of the world doesn't speak the required language? I mean, that's a piss poor challenge in itself. I mean, at least if Allah was going to do that, at least pick a more well spoken language like Mandarin or English or something. I mean, Arabic is.
Or
I'm not
Latin.
sure how many
In
people.
those times, I would say Latin is a better option.
Yeah, Latin would have been perfect, wouldn't it? Because it was spoken in large parts of the world. So yeah, it just shows it's a book of the 7th century, though, doesn't it? I mean, it really wasn't forward thinking to the 21st century with all these different languages that have spread and are far more predominant than Arabic. But yeah, the entire challenge is just. It's so silly, and I mean, you say you don't want to be provocative, Socrates son. I mean, I will say something provocative in that I think the Quran is badly written. So you could just write something badly, and in a way, it would be like the Quran.
Yeah, exactly.
Just write some kind of non sequitur, and yeah, in a way, that's like the Quran. So there you go.
I also have a question about why can't we match other poems to this? What's like what differentiates, let's say, the Bhagavad Gita or the Rig Veda, which were written, I believe, 1,000, almost 2,000 years before the Quran? Why wouldn't they be considered into this as a challenge?
Well, yeah, and I'd also say, and this is probably one for Ginny, but I mean, I've heard that there was supposed to be Arabic poetry at the time that was considered better by a lot of people than the Quran.
I mean,
so.
yeah, I mean, there is some poets like there is this blind guy. Oh God, I've forgotten his name, but he kind of exalts the old poetry, and he was also a famous poet, but later during the Abbasid age, and he like exalts this Jahiliya poetry or this pre-Islamic poetry and says that it was better than the Quran.
Yeah, guys, I made a video trying to answer this Quranic challenge, and I made a contrast. I put one Greek poem from a very good poet. He was a Nobel Prize winner. Guys, this guy, it was like he's like Einstein of poetry. Okay, and you contrast with the Quran. And what I was trying to communicate is that in poetry you also need the essence. I can say things that can rhyme. For example, my name is Costa, blah blah blah. Costas is my name Costa, and I can rhyme, but that doesn't mean it's a good poetry. And I contrast this Greek poet, this monster, this Einstein of poetry, and the difference was so. And I said, why isn't this a good poem? And is this? And the thing is that there are some surahs that are very short. It's like a sentence. It's like saying, "In the name of Allah," blah blah blah, and it's just one sentence. And I was thinking to myself, another thing to contemplate is that when you have words, the claim that no one can put words, let's forget the meaning, no one can put words in a certain order is insane. Isn't that right? Even monkeys, that remind me the analogy of monkeys writing for eternity in a type machine. So even without thinking, what is the difficult to put words in a different order? Isn't that insane? So even by luck, you can make something like the Quran. You just put words. So yeah.
And
So
I
another
have a
thing.
question. When they say in likeness as well, Do they mean poetry, or do they mean poetry that's prophetic, or do they mean a religion? But in all these different sects, I can give you examples that are like of it as well.
Well, that's the point, isn't it? I mean, it's just not
Yeah.
clearly defined. It wouldn't pass. Any neutral observer would not say that that was a fair test, because until you define your parameters.
His name, I remember this name, Al-Ma'ari
Al-Ma'ari
was the poet.
Okay. He's the blind
Al-Ma'ari,
poet.
he's yeah. He
But actually, see, here's another thing, though. I mean, you can look at some parts of the Quran that, like say, parts of the Quran that are talking about how to divide up inheritance. I mean, surely you could just pick something like that. I mean, there's nothing special about that. It's literally just saying, give your
Well
mother
said.
1/3 and your father 1/3 in this situation. Or give
Well said.
there's nothing special about that. It's just like an instruction list. So could you just write that out? You put some different numbers in and then say, okay, well, that's like it. I don't see what's special about those parts of the Quran. There's no
Very
poetry.
well said. I didn't thought.
Oh, sorry. Go.
Sorry, I just wanted to say that's a very good argument, because I didn't thought about that. Because there are, as you said, there are many Quranic passage verses, let's say, that is just I don't know, like the inheritance.
Well, they're just
Also,
mundane, aren't they? They're incredibly mundane.
Exactly.
And, yeah.
And
Yeah.
also there is the other verse, excuse me, that says which women Muhammad can have intercourse with, and it starts, and your paternal mothers and your paternal fathers and your paternal mother, your sisters and the sisters who follow you and the sisters. So even that nobody can imitate. I mean, just
Yeah, that's just a list of your relatives, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, that's not exactly exciting stuff. I mean, yeah, I'm sure we could all write that down. Don't sleep with your auntie. Don't sleep with your uncle. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, one of us could just write that down, and technically that's the challenge pass, right? Well, maybe Ginny would have to do it because it have to be in Arabic, wouldn't it? But
we got Google Translate.
I don't know how effective it is. Does it do it properly for Arabic? I'm always kind of suspicious.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Google Translate is terrible at Arabic.
Yeah. So
on that note, I also had one more thing I want to present today. I was messing around with Chat GPT here, and I asked it this. Basically, I sent Moose this as well. So tell me a joke about Hanuman, who is the Hindu god and such. Sure, here's a lighthearted joke about Hanuman. Why did Hanuman go to the doctor? Because he was feeling a little monkey. So then I said, tell me a joke about Prophet Muhammad. I am sorry, as an AI language model, it is not appropriate or respectful to make jokes about religious figures, including Prophet Muhammad. My program
wow, amazing.
My program is designed to be informative and respectful. And I do not engage in humor that could be seen as offensive or disrespectful to any individual or group.
Oh, you should have heard what I got exposed to lately, that our society here in the West is suffering from an extreme case of Hinduphobia. So this is just natural.
Yeah, that's.
Well, no, I mean, I have heard this before. I'm sure I've seen another video on YouTube about it. To be fair, I don't think it's just Islam. I think if you try and make jokes about Jesus as well, you'll get the same response. But if you go outside,
you will.
But if you go outside of basically Christianity or Islam, so if you mock Sikhism or Hinduism or Buddhism, it'll let you do that. So.
But the issue with those religions are that they are less known in the West.
Yeah, so and the people who follow them are less likely to get upset about the joke, probably as well. On the whole,
the Hindus will get upset.
Well, I said on the whole. I know there is a fringe of Hindus that are quite kind of aggressive, but I'd say the Hindus I've known in the UK are pretty relaxed about their religion. So.
Yeah, don't say it too loud and drastic, because I got uncles that'll probably lynch you for saying that.
That's all right.
Yeah,
They can join the queue. There's plenty of Muslims in
yeah.
my comment section who I'm sure would want to do the same thing. So
Yes, you're right. But this is, you know why this is problematic, because how social evolution works is not it takes time. So if that continues and some certain figures are beyond criticism, that will happen automatically. That society will tune itself, okay, to and will give, let's say, this reverence to these figures. So this is very problematic. People think, okay, so what? Okay, you cannot insult Prophet Muhammad or Jesus, for example. Yes, but this is exactly the reason we see now this what we see in the Muslim world. If the Muslim world had free speech from the beginning, all these problems we see now in the Muslim world, these regressive attitudes, wouldn't have existing. So, what I'm trying to say, if the West tune itself to to this kind of restrictions, eventually, not in 5 years, in 10 years, in 50 years, but slowly, slowly, it's like biological evolution. A society will tune itself to something like will look like an Islamic state. So it's yes, it's hugely problematic that people.
I mean, I don't
you
think
know,
we will get to that point. I think there will be a counter reaction sooner or later, but
exactly. Yeah, I agree with you.
I
Yeah,
mean, we are already seeing a lot of counter reactions to a lot of the other impositions upon free speech that are happening, and I mean,
Yeah,
some could argue that a lot of the more extreme uh, measures we see in certain political directions are a result of certain stifling homogenic thought patterns that have dominated political discourse in the
yeah,
West.
yes, and also it's democracy itself. Democracy itself, it is self-correcting in a sense. So the more the Islam gets stronger in the West, the more democracy will counter react with far right parties. Not that I'm in favor of that, but what I'm trying to say, the more Islam is becomes stronger, the far right becomes stronger at the same time. So that's why we see Wilders. Although I like the guy, I don't think he's especially far right or something like that.
is he
I
still
don't see.
around? Wow.
I don't know. I really don't know. But
I
what
haven't
I'm trying
heard
to say,
anything from him for ages. It's been ages since I've heard anything from Gert Wilders.
yeah. But yes, but this is the point, that the more in Holland, the more they had problems with immigration, and specifically with this, obviously we don't have any problem with Muslim the people. It's the ideology that doesn't integrate. And the far majority of Muslims in the West, obviously, are just making this caveat. Okay, so obviously, but the thing is that the more we see Islam getting, let's say, political power in Holland, suddenly the Guild Wilders party became second in popularity. So this is kind of how democracy adopts and reacts. So that's why I agree with Jean, because yes, I don't think the Europe will ever become an Islamic state, or something. Yes, similar. Yes, there is a threshold.
Well, let's hope not. I mean, we seem to have strayed quite far from the original topic, which was the.
Yeah. So sorry, it just happened.
No, it's fine. Well, hey, look, I mean, it's Nick's show anyway, so I didn't know whether anyone wanted to have any.
But I mean, again, as I said before, the problem with this idea about the immutable Quran is that it is based upon subjective value judgment, so it can't be objectively measured at all. Firstly, and secondly, you can easily game it by having a guy that knows the entire Quran and thus knows by exclusion what isn't like the Quran.
Well, it's funny actually. I was speaking to Stop Spamming the other day, and I remember he said this before. There was an old episode of the Gin and Tonic show going right back to the start, years and years ago, where they had an episode on the Quran challenge. But what they did, I think Hassan Radwan, the ex-Muslim guy, he was on the show, and he said that what they were doing was they were getting Muslims to call in, and Hassan was like kind of making up Quranic verses for them, and apparently a whole bunch of them couldn't tell the difference. So it seemed that this ex-Muslim guy was essentially passing this challenge over and over. And the biggest shame of it is it's the only episode from the original run which has disappeared, which I haven't got a copy of, which is a real shame because it sounds like a great. I would have loved to see that.
Yeah, no, it would
One
have
of the
been
issues
great.
as well with that is that they will always claim, oh, but those weren't true believing Muslims because they would have memorized the entire Quran.
Well, that's the point. I mean, if you've memorized the whole book, then obviously you'd be able to,
then
you'd be able to tell, wouldn't you, if it was?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's a really stupid test from that point of view as well. If you can memorize
that is what I'm saying. It is a test that is impossible to meet. It's a red herring challenge.
And yet, so many Muslims are so proud to bring this up whenever you get into whenever I've had so many online discourses with just, and I'm not talking like big apologists, I'm just talking ordinary rank and file Muslims who will say, this challenge is just brilliant. This just proves Islam is true. And I'm genuinely shocked, even now, even though I've seen it so many times, how they can't see all the problems in this challenge. Even when you explain it to them, they still say, no, this is God's challenge. You can't get out of it. And I just have to face palm. There's not much you can say.
Yeah, drastic. That's because you're trying to use logic and reason. How about you put it like this? If you believe the Quran's true, you're gay. You'll see a lot of people convert then.
No.
Let's not go down that road.
Let's not be like that. No.
You're going to get really upset if you go down that road.
I mean, we need to stay cultured and well-mannered.
Yes.
I'll leave that to you. According to some of the comments in Drastic Measures show, we're all stupid. So at the Gin and Tonic show.
Well, yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Socrates. You want to say something?
No. What I wanted to say is, I wanted to ask whether spamming joins the show.
Stop spamming.
So stop spamming. You mentioned him.
He has been on. He was last year. He was on quite a few times. He made quite a few appearances.
Oh, yes.
But I think he's doing like the German equivalent of this show now. So I don't think he's got much time to come on.
Oh, really? Yes. I love this guy. In fact, he was one of the first channels long ago, 10 years ago now. The first atheist channels I watched when I started, engaging with a new atheist, movement with kitchens, dockings, and so on. I was watching Stop Spamming. He's a great guy. Yes. But the other thing yes, please, Drastic, please.
Oh, I was just going to say, yeah. I mean, Stop Spamming has been like doing critique of Islam for so long. I think he probably started with Muhammad himself. I think he's been doing it that long.
Yeah, and I remember he made one video that had 1 million views, something like that. Very, yeah. It's he's a great guy, and he's one of the reasons I started getting interested. I was watching his videos and so on. So the other thing is I think here, just in this podcast, we listed about how many now reasons? I think it's six, something like that.
There's got to be at least that many.
Yeah. I think we were kind of inspired. I think we gave many reasons. It's the most complete with reasons against the inimitability challenge that I personally have ever saw, because everyone pitched in and say, this one, and this one, and this one, and this one, and this one. And we kind of exhausted. We say all these good reasons. So this is a great episode, I think. Because we were kind of inspired, and we all pitched in and gave many reasons. Yeah, I think it's 6 or 7 now, and I think we can find more if we think a little bit.
Oh yeah, there's
Yeah.
loads. I mean, this has been challenged so many times now. I mean, it's good to go over them every so often, because you still get Muslims who will they'll use this as some kind of gotcha to say, oh look, you can't get past this challenge. And so I think it's worth going over every now and again. But yeah, it was a garbage challenge when it was first written, and it hasn't gotten any better in the last 1300 years. So
And guys, and amazingly for me, is that there are no many arguments for the truth of Islam, because what they did in order to make Muslim apologists, in order to make apologetics against other arguments, against scientific criticism, let's say, they kind of they now say that there are no scientific miracles in the Quran. So they kind of rejected all the other arguments, and the remaining ones is the inimitability challenge, is the prophecies. So there are, and I think one more. So there are not many arguments Muslim apologists now use, and this is one of them.
well, you say that they're not arguing for miracles in the Quran, but Nadir Ahmed came on my channel and also came on the Gin and Tonic show just towards the end of last year. He's still making the same arguments that were defeated. He was defeated on the Gin and Tonic show 10 years ago, and he's still making the same damn arguments. So,
Nadir,
still make them, but I can say that I'm also noticing this trend that they are going away from actually trying to prove their own religion and become more focused upon attacking other ideas, especially what they think as godless atheistic liberalism.
Oh yeah, I mean, they all sound like they're kind of part of the alt-right now, in the way, like every liberals are destroying everything or something. I mean, it just I think they realize that their arguments to confirm their own religion are so weak, and they've been debunked so many times, that it's just easier to attack Christianity or attack atheism or attack Hinduism or whatever.
Yes.
And they go with a lifestyle now that is the the best lifestyle, so on. And of course they strawman liberalism, and unfortunately many Christians apologists do that. Christians I like very much.
There are liberals that very much fit the worst case stereotypes.
Of course, there are, but I like to call them toxic liberals, because I like to give my definition of liberalism. But so if you put forward, let's say, toxic LGBT or toxic feminist, the crazy ones with the red hair shouting and wanting to change the pronouns and all this kind of stuff, and wanting children to become transgender and so on. But this is not representative of liberalism, of course. This is some kind of toxic kind of.
But this is quite funny though, because there was a Muslim who left a whole bunch of comments on one of my videos, where he basically was, his definition of liberalism was so broad that he was picking authoritarian corrupt governments in like Central Africa, and he was saying because they're not Muslim, they're liberal. And I'm like, how the fuck are you going to stretch the definition that far? You're basically just saying that everyone who isn't a Salafi Muslim is a liberal. It's like,
yes, exactly.
It's so stupid.
Yeah, we gotta bring a challenge. Bring it like the atheist textbooks. Whoever can rewrite or bring something like Dawkins' book.
Oh,
Yeah.
don't put ideas in it. No, because this is a problem though, because the Dawa apologists, they do think that like the selfish gene is our equivalent of the Quran or something. It's so annoying when they make these comparisons. So I wouldn't want to encourage that, Nick, because I think they would love to do
Do
that.
you not believe in the great prophet Dawkins? How dare you?
Yeah.
This is heresy.
Yeah, I mean, hell, they're still going on about Christopher
Rather
Hitchens. The guy's been dead for 12 years, I think, now, and they're still going on about Christopher Hitchens, for goodness sake.
Yeah, and they say it's our prophet, because now it's yes, he's dead. He's now our how they make this kind of analogies. Dawkins is I cannot remember. I think Dawkins is the God. I cannot remember exactly, but I remember Hitchens was the prophet, something like that. Harris was what was
Harris was
anyway,
the
I don't
first
remember.
caliph of atheism. Yeah.
Harris was the first caliph, and then we had Daniel Dennett, who when I was watching the Four Horsemen, I was not that impressed with Daniel Dennett. I said, okay, he's not like the other three, but now I think he's the best of them. He's very, very smart. Daniel Dennett is very, very smart, guys.
But I mean, the funny thing is, though, all these, like the Four Horsemen, obviously Hitchens is dead. Harris has not really talked about Islam for a good few years now. I mean, it feels like it's been at least 5 years since he's said anything significant. I mean, he's talking about all sorts of other things now. Daniel Dennett has hardly said anything about Islam in 10 years. And Dawkins occasionally brings it up, but it's they think that like the Four Horsemen got together to try to debunk Islam or something, and it just happened to be something they were focused on for a little while in a handful of a handful of conversations, and yet they think that there's some kind of religious structure of atheism that's out to destroy
if
Islam.
anything, it was Christianity that they went after the most.
Well, yeah, that's what Harris started with, didn't he? I mean, he had all that letter to a Christian nation and stuff like that, but it just shows how worried they are. They're still so obsessed with these people who hardly ever talk about Islam these days. So
their main object was Christianity. And that's why you see now people like Aaron Ra, that he's the old school from this school. He still, I watch him on Twitter. He's still, arguing with these old Christian apologists like Tourette. I think it was him. But yeah, I agree. The new atheist movement was not against Islam. Then Islam was kind of irrelevant at that point. But I give them something that although their arguments still are the same, are not good, but at least now they have competent debaters with debate charisma, how you call that. I mean, Mohammed Hijab, although his arguments are dreadful, he has this charisma in debating. Daniel Hakikatsu, although his arguments are childish, he has this charisma as a debater. And that is exactly what is lacking from the atheists right now. Now we are witnessing a period that we don't have good atheist debaters. Not, I don't mean with arguments, but with this charisma that Hitchens had.
I don't know. I'd disagree slightly with that. I think Aaron Ra is he's pretty good. I've seen him on Modern Day Debates. He's been on there quite a lot, and he's really upped his game into particularly about challenging Muslims on Islamic ideology. He's got a lot more knowledge on that topic. So I think Aaron Ra is pretty good. And I mean, Matt Dillahunty's still pretty good as well. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I've seen him recently, and he has improved. I mean, at the beginning he was only Christianity, but he has, increased his repertoire of facing other religions too.
Yeah, and Matt Dillahunty's upped his game on Islam as well. I think he's got much better knowledge. So I mean, whenever I've seen those two on,
hasn't Matt Dillahunty quitted?
Oh yeah, he quit the atheist experience, but he still goes on to Modern Day Debates. I've seen him in quite a few debates with Muslims there, and he's wiped the floor of every single one of them. So Yeah, I think there are still some good
Though
personalities.
personally, I think that debate culture generally, I mean, a lot of these things are really toxic because they aren't well moderated a lot of the times.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what I've noticed is with the sorry, we're really far off topic now, but just to make the point on this, I think on that modern day debate show, whenever I've seen the Muslims come on, they just seem to either concede the debate question straight away and then talk about something else, or they're just off the topic right from the start and they never really address the question properly. I've said, I mean, Matt Dillahunty, he loses his shit every time because he's just like, you called me in here to talk about, slavery in the Quran, and now you're talking about whether evolution is proven or something like that. They always end up dodging to something else. So I think the moderation is okay on that, except for that they let them just go off on these tangents, and you don't actually get a real debate on the topic. That's my experience of it anyway. But anyways, yeah, Nick, we are way off topic now. What are we doing here? Is it just like it's just a friendly chat session now, or are we? Did you have any more videos or anything?
On our excuse, guys, we kind of exhausted, in a sense, the topic, I think.
And I think Nick has fallen asleep. So,
oh yes,
Nick, are you there?
Sure.
None of us. Can
maybe he went to the toilet.
Okay, sorry to the audience. I mean, I would suggest we wrap up, but I think only Nick can close the show down. So,
we are prisoners of Nick. We will be here forever. Please, yeah.
Well, look, yeah. I mean, yeah. Well, look, I'll summarize my point. Yeah, I think the Quran challenge is ludicrous, ill-defined, and easily dismissible for all the reasons that we've mentioned. And yeah, I think it's good to go over it once in a while, just for the benefit of people who haven't heard it, and because Muslims still rely on it despite how bad it is. So yeah, I think it's worth going over, and I think we did a pretty good job.
Yeah, I would say that the mere fact that the Quran doesn't specify, it doesn't make this challenge specific, and it says like it, that's the end of it. You don't need to see further. Okay, it's not a challenge that is defined in a way that can be met. Okay, it's very ambiguous. For example, I can take a paper and write 5 words and say, look, the Quran has paper, I have paper, so it's like it. So like it might mean this, might also mean verbatim. So what do you mean exactly? Moreover, the other point, which is very significant, is that we already established that we can, because it's in Arabic. So to answer a Nick Hill question, what is the expectation? I was really struggling with this question. So what do they expect us to do? So when I started...
sorry. I have a coughing issue today. So
hello.
Yeah, we were worried about closing the show up, Nick, because we weren't sure if you'd fallen asleep at the mic or something.
Oh no, I was having a coughing fit again, so I had to go grab a water and come back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But yeah, so we'll close up the show then for today. Thank you so much for coming, everyone.
Yeah, it's been fun. It's been nice to be on. It's been a while.
It was nice, very nice, guys. I enjoyed this very much. I will. How often this show happens?
We do it weekly, but the last 2 weeks, I was able to record it before, but we're going to be doing it weekly live now.
Okay, that's great. Okay, so I would like to participate if I'm. Yes, if you like me too, I would like to participate again.
Yeah, we would definitely love to. I'll send you the links regularly.
Thank you very much. It was very nice talking to you guys.
Very nice.
Yeah, it's been fun. Yeah, it's been nice to come back on. It's been a while. So yeah, thanks for this, guys.
For sure. Take care.
Bye. Take care.